Good evening. I'd like to call to order the January 23rd meeting of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. My name is Patrick Rafferty. I'm chairman of the board. I would like to take the time to introduce the members of the board at this time. To my far left is Kelly Kelly. Next to her is Jason Hood, who is the vice chairman of the board. On my right is Mark Rodriguez. Angela Tisdale is next to him, and Angie Lumsden is next to her. All of these people are volunteers, and we do appreciate them taking their time to participate in the board meeting and activities on behalf of the board. We have agendas that are available in the box inside the door so that you may follow along with the various items that we're going to discuss, including an item that you may choose to speak about. If you decide to speak about an item that's either on the agenda or not on the agenda, we would ask that you approach the podium, announce your name, and confine your remarks to 3 minutes on that particular topic. The first order of business is approval of the minutes from the 24th of October meeting that have been published. Does anybody have any changes to those minutes before we approve them? If there are no changes, may I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Next item of business is for citizens to be heard regarding items that are not on the agenda. As I mentioned, there's copies of the agenda available to you. If the item's on the agenda, we would ask you to wait until that item comes up. But if you have an item that is not on the agenda that you would like to speak to, please come on, approach the podium and announce yourself and confine your remarks to 3 minutes.
Hello everyone, Happy New Year. My name is Dina Ramos. I am the director and founder, my favorite person, of the Clearwater Hispanic Farmers Market. And thank you for all the work that you guys are doing. Appreciate them. So I'm excited to be here with you. And so real quick, 3 minutes, go fast. I have 4 questions, so if I'll stick by just to make sure, to see if I can get answers to them. My first one is just a question, very simple. I was just wondering who is managing the events at the Mercado Plaza? Is it Parks and Rec or is it CRA? Just a question.
That decision hadn't finally been made because the Mercado's not done, but the Parks and Rec would probably be the one that is responsible for that, yes.
Park and Recs?
Parks and Rec, it would be a regular special event type item that you would go through, and those are the things we're working out, the logistics of that right now.
Okay.
So it would not be CRA.
It will not be CRA. Okay, just wanted to make sure who to address.
Yeah. They have a new CRA director.
I
It would be
heard.
fair putting that on them, so.
I heard.
Yes.
So whoever hired them,
Yes.
Thank you kindly. I think I was just celebrating that, the city of Clearwater heard the community, and so I'm sorry. Okay, moving on. Thank you very much. So my next question real quick. There's a potential that we are going to be celebrating the Hispanic Heritage Month in October at this amphitheater, I believe. So based on that, I was just, this is another question. We are wondering about the chairs at the facility, because we are going to be expecting several thousands of people, and so the availability of those chairs, of seating area, I understand that there's some not clear about the usage of those chairs. So we just want to make sure so we can plan accordingly.
Yeah, and those are things that we would certainly work with a group that is going to be, coming in there, and I know that Chris will work with them. As far as I know, we were going to use the venue, which is the sound, are the chairs.
Okay.
So we don't like to move those chairs because there's 4,000 of them, so they'll probably be there, yeah.
Okay, so they will not, okay, they will stay there.
Yeah.
So 4,000 chairs, and I believe I understand that outside there's another few
There's
thousand?
the grass area out there.
The grass area, okay.
Probably sits safely 8,000, 7,000 to 8,000.
Okay.
I know it's been advertised as 9,000, but
Yeah,
our
yeah.
fire department wants to make sure that it's safe, and we have some aisles down that grass area.
Okay.
And it depends on the type of event too. Some events you stand up, so you can get a lot more when you're standing up than you're sitting down or laying down on the
Good.
grass carpet.
Okay, all right, just taking notes, making sure, so that we can, prepare. So 4K seating, okay. All right, and then, so my next question, some of the, situations about making community events at the Coachman Park, in the traffic, the parking, and all of that, but also the bathrooms. So I don't know if there's an idea, a possibility that there could be some permitting. Yeah, I've seen in other areas, in other places, permanent bathrooms that are actually like some sort of like mobile homes, but it's actually beautiful bathrooms that are permanently set in a park. Is there any chance that we can add, or is that
You
something?
mean to other parks in the city?
Well, no, to the Coachman, because the last event that we had, men's were usually they're the quickest using the bathroom. There was a line of men to use the bathroom, and so adding bathrooms, to.
With big events, we'll make sure that the bathrooms are there. As a matter of fact, most people don't know it, but the amphitheater is open every single day that there's not an event, and those restrooms are available. They're open and they're huge. If you've not gone in them, there's like 20, 30
Well, actually,
stalls.
that's now that you mention it, that we have found them closed. So, making those bathrooms available, that's just a concern that if we
Well, they
can.
are available. It's just that you have to walk a little bit of distance from the playground.
Okay, very well. And then my last observation, I would say, I was told in some other meetings,
All right, why don't you get your fourth question in?
can I?
Yeah, why don't you
Okay.
just get it in?
All right, very well, thank you. Going in extra time. So, we're planning for the Hispanic Heritage Month in October, we're looking to bring some big musical bands that probably will draw over 5,000 people. And so that's why I'm basing all of these questions about the parking, about the bathrooms, having 4,000 people, might have an impact on those things. So being just from a practical point of view. So in regards to the electrical expenses and cost of using the amphitheater, the sound, I was told that there's somewhere around $35,000 to cost to have. And so for a 5 hours event, 35,000 just for electricity sounds a little exorbitant, and so we are wondering, and when I say we, the leaders and business owners that I represent, if there could be a breakdown of those $35,000 that we were told. That sounds like a huge amount to spend in electricity for 5 hours event. This sounds like, even if we have a daylight, we can bring generators and it will be under $1,000. So, generators to power the sound systems. So $35,000 for electricity, it sounds like really.
It may be a little, actually be a little bit more than that. The reality is Ruth Eckerd Hall is the one that the city has hired to run those facilities. And basically, we have 10 dates that the city can use them. They don't put any profit on or anything else. And we've suggested that the Hispanic Heritage Day be one of those days that we're allowed to use that without having to have those extra charges. However, the cost is not just for lights. They pay for all this, because any time any event goes in there, they are responsible. They do all the security, they do all of the technical work. You put a band in there, that means you gotta have people to operate the sound systems and all the lights and various other things. And it runs that. It costs the city, when we use those, that area, it costs us about that much money. That's why I put to the city council this last week and estimated the events like Blues and others to be about $40,000 that we'd have to pay to Ruth Eckerd Hall. That's why many of the events are held on the green rather than in Ruth Eckerd Hall, the big theater, because
Right.
it's designed as a theater. So, that is a cost that they will do. But to answer your question, they will give you a breakdown of what those costs are.
Yeah, because as a community, I mean, we empower, or the amphitheater or the sound is actually for the community, for the city, I believe, not for the benefit of the Ruth Eckerd Hall, but actually for us, for we, the people of Clearwater in the community event. And so the community in general. So benefiting us. So we don't want to work as milking the cow to make somebody else. We need to benefit our own people. So a breakdown so that we can understand why are we getting charged all of that
We
money.
can sit down and we'll certainly give that to you.
Yeah.
I assume, are you going to charge tickets? You're going to charge a fee for people to get in and those types of things?
That's part of the meeting that we're having
Okay,
tomorrow.
well, then that'll be additional cost because you have ticket takers and you have to go through their ticket system and all of the things.
Yeah, but those are our people.
Why don't we sit down?
So-
I'm sorry. You can't use your people to do that.
You see, they controlling everything.
Absolutely. That's their responsibility.
Okay.
So there's two bits, so basically there's two possibilities. There's the amphitheater, which is an enclosed space run by Ruth Eckerd, and then there's the grass, which is open to.
That's right.
So there's two events, two situations you're gonna have. One, in the theater,
Yeah.
running all the costs, whatever it takes to handle the theater and whatever, and then
Yeah.
outside,
Yes.
in the grass. And if
Yeah.
you do it on grass, it'll be different, but then would they be able to do stages on the grass and?
There's generally no charges on that. I mean, in the grass, there isn't. I mean, you're not having to pay for the costs that I shared with you. The other thing too is that when they have someone come down, most of their people are unionized staff and they have union rates that they have to pay these people. And generally, they're pretty high. And so anyways, you and I can talk about that offline if you'd like, but, call me one day, we can share
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
Because we don't know your planning yet, or who actually is on the committee, or. have you-
Yeah, that's why we're having the meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
That's why we
good.
haven't-
Well, we have also Friends of Coachman Park are meeting tomorrow, so if you
Yeah.
can get involved in that, that would be really good.
I sure will. Thank you. I have some other questions, but we'll bring them at a later time.
Okay,
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Does anyone else from the public have an item they would like to speak about that is not on the agenda? If not, we'll move on to the next business item, which is the new business. And the first item is the election of officers for the 2024 period for the Parks and Recreation Board. There are two positions that would be nominated and voted upon, the chairman as well as the vice chairman. We have a discussion about it. There'll be nomination, second nominations, and then the actual voting. I would like to say that having served as the chairman for the last year, I'm willing to do that for another year, if you would consider that. I did enjoy it. I got educated on a lot of different things and interacted with a lot of people on issues I wasn't even aware about with respect to the Parks and Recreation system. So I have no problem serving again. However, if there's someone else that would like to consider either of the positions and they are nominated and so forth, I have no problem with that, going to them as well. So, any discussions or nominations you'd like to do?
I don't want to be chairman, so that eliminates me. You have a lot.
I'm not sure there either, but I like to make a motion to keep Mr. Rafferty as
Yeah.
chair. You've been doing a great job. very, you communicate very well and have good thoughts.
I need a second.
Second.
I've done it before, I'm fine.
And then, now the voting, please. And I do get to vote only in this instance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Next position we have is that of the vice chairman, who of course will sit in for the chairman in the absence of the chairman and so forth. And Mr. Hood has been the vice chairman for last year, and I would like to nominate him for vice chairman again this year, for him to consider that position. And as I mentioned, when the chairman's not available for whatever reason, he would step in, conduct the meeting, etc. So, would anyone like to second that nomination, or have a discussion?
I have no problem with it.
Okay. And we have a vote for,
Anybody else want to?
No.
we have a vote for Mr. Hood for the vice chairman.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous once again. Congratulations, and the salary remains the same.
$1 million.
Okay, the next new business item is 4.2, which is a discussion of the December project update report, which has been distributed to us. I believe the most recent one we have is from January 2nd, 2024. We'll use that one, correct?
Yeah, that was what the last one we had, and we put this into the agenda rather than, sometimes that comes with the department report. But basically, as you can see from the report, there's two of them that basically need updates, and that's the Reed Wilson Trail bridge structure repair and painting. That project is underway. Matter of fact, I'd like for Matt Anderson to come up. Matt Anderson is, he was not at the last meeting. He is the new Assistant Parks and Recreation Director. He takes my position, my old position, and he's been with the city for some time, but he does projects, maintenance, everything that I don't want to do. He's in charge of all the maintenance side of the organization as well as the administration. And y'all know Mike Lockwood. He was at the last meeting. If you recall, Mike is responsible for all the programming side and the special events side of the organization. So that's how we're kind of divided up. But Matt is in charge of projects. So if you could just give an update on that one, and
Sure.
then the Moccasin Lake Bridge repair.
Absolutely.
Those two.
Matthew Anderson, Assistant Director, Parks and Recreation. To update you on Reed Wilson Trail, the project is still on schedule to finish in April. It got started a little later than we wanted to due to some permitting issues through the county, because that is a county road that our bridge goes over. The project's been going very well. I don't know if you have not had an opportunity to go out and see it. We've changed the colors. It's not just going to be a basic color bridge. It's using our rebranding color palette that our public communications department developed when we rebranded a few years ago. So it's really bright, and it really sticks out when you're driving north or south of McMullen Booth Road. It is still currently closed to pedestrian traffic and will remain closed until April when we open it back up. There's a chance it could open a little bit sooner, but we're sticking with the April 2024 reopening date. If there's any specific questions, I'll be glad to answer them, but that's the general
About
overview of where we
Moccasin,
are.
did you say Moccasin?
Yes, sir. I met with Reed Wilson if they had anything specific, and I'll tell them about Moccasin next. Any specific questions about the Reed Wilson Trail? Okay. I'm going to hop into Moccasin. We just went to council last week. Council approved the project, which will not only repair the drainage issues in the creek below the bridge that has failed, but it will put a brand new expansion bridge in rather than repair that bridge. So we are anticipating a purchase order in the next 7 to 10 days. Once we get that purchase order, we will start working to issue a notice to proceed and get start dates and things like that set up, start noticing folks. At the same time, when we're doing that, there is an old pavilion that will be removed and some trail extension work done, because we'll essentially shut that whole north portion of the park down from the Bat House back to 19. So while we have it closed, we're going to use that to utilize for some renourishing of the trails. And like I said, that one shelter that's in disarray. So once we open that, we'll have a new portion of that loop that will be included along with that removed and the new bridge. So it'll be really exciting. It's been a long time coming. We've had a permit through Swift Mud and DEP, both state agencies, and it just takes a lot of time to work through the various different things that they need to see So we're looking forward to getting that project started and completed and getting the park back open fully. So any specific questions to Moccasin Lake?
If I'm not mistaken on this particular item, I believe the city council has already approved $239,000 for that bridge.
Correct.
To be done, so it's, the money's available.
Yeah, the money's available. Right, once the PO, the purchase order is issued, which it was approved through council, we get a purchase order issued. At that point, we can have the contractor start scheduling dates and things like that. We'll hand them a notice to proceed to start scheduling that work. So,
Quick background on some of the, on this particular item that I think would be of interest to the board as well as the public is that we first became aware of this situation when the Friends of Moccasin Lake Park attended one of these meetings and told us about this issue in April of 2023. And I had the opportunity to go down there and see it firsthand and so forth. And shortly thereafter, Art, Matt, and a couple of other individuals attended a meeting with Friends of Moccasin Lake Park to specifically talk about this bridge that was in dire need of repair and to discuss what they could do to push it forward. Long story short, it was because of the efforts of Parks and Recreation, Art, Matt, and their team. They not only pushed it forward, but they determined rather than repairing it, that you were going to replace it and so forth. So I think it's an excellent example of when an issue comes up that maybe the board is not aware of completely, that if the residents or citizens bring it to our attention, we can work with, in collaboration with Parks and Recreation, we can get things taken care of. So I do want to commend Parks and Recreation for their pushing this idea through, and it looks like it's going to happen. So
Absolutely.
Very well done, thank you.
yes, sir.
Are there any other questions on the project update list that we have here from anybody on the board?
I was wondering if the CCT overpass has a design or they're still in design phase?
They're still in the design phase of that. It just takes a long time. They are hopeful to be there, I think, this summer with the bridge, pedestrian bridge.
Correct, and that project is being taken over by our engineering department. It was originally in Parks and Rec, it's going to engineering, so they will be managing. They have taken over the design portion of it. So we will obviously still be active in reviews and things that they bring to us, but they will be the ones doing the overall review and implementation with DOT.
Yeah, the latest I heard was midsummer. They hope to be, putting pilings in the ground. Okay.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Those really nice signs for some parks, can they be repainted?
So we are actually in the process of working with public communications. As part of the rebranding, our signage has changed. So we have not been repainting because they will be getting brand new signs. And they're also a more sustainable sign. They're actually metal signs that are, they have a 20-year coating on them. They also match our current color palette that we have established through the rebranding. So that is something you'll start seeing. Del Oro Park has one of those current signs. So if you're out and about, you want to check out the Reed Wilson Trail Bridge colors, you can see the new signage as well. And that hopefully will be implemented soon. Public Communications is who's taking that out to do the procurement for it. So
Because I noticed that Prospect Park is horrible.
we've got a list of ones that are in dire need, and they're obviously ranked in worst first, essentially replacement. So we're just waiting on getting that purchase order so we can get started.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Matt. The next item of new business is item 4.3, and oddly enough, I believe this is an item that Marty Armstrong proposed. He did this last year as well, and he wasn't here for that meeting. He's not here for this meeting, but perhaps, I don't know if this stuff can be presented to us as a board relative to the invasive nuisance plant species in the parks.
Yeah, I'd like for Matt Anderson to take this item and the next item, which are both on.
Right, okay, very good.
Yeah, the invasives in parks falls under my maintenance group out of Parks and Beautification. All of our maintenance division, not just in my groups, but also over in ball fields, we all have licensed herbicide applicators that help us in our fight against invasive and nuisance plants. So to start out, I was just going to give you a little basic background of what we do to survey our parks and how we determine need. Obviously, I'm not sure what Mr. Armstrong had with with looking for a more formal one, but I'll give you the background on what we currently do, and that'll have y'all have that information when you do speak with him again. But we currently survey those invasive plants in our parks on a case-by-case basis. So, for instance, right now State Street Park is through the planning phases, where we'll be developing that park, and we're looking at invasives and ways to remove them in that park. Another one was a purchase of the Pineapple Lane property that actually adjoins Moccasin Lake. After we closed on that property, there was a big infestation of Brazilian pepper. We have since gone in with a forestry mulcher and removed those. So that is really, we don't have a formal process to evaluate every park for invasives, but as we find them and as we are brought to the attention that we have an issue with them in those locations, we try to take care of them as quickly as possible. To do a formal one, we would have to do a request for proposals from companies, because I'm not sure. We've done tree inventories in the city, and I've been a part of that, and that's simple. It's a lot more tangible process, because if you put a dollar value to inventory each tree, and you say, okay, when we do 10,000 trees, we've spent our money for that. Not really knowing how you would tag and inventory individual plants and plant groupings, that's what would make it hard. So that's why we would rather put it out for request for quotes. We do it for request for proposals, because we would have to have multiple people that's what they do, tell us how we would need to proceed. That brings up a lot of questions, budget, making sure we had money to get that survey done, but then what do we do on the backside with that survey information? How good is a survey if you don't have the ability to actually implement your actions that the survey brings to your attention? So those are all questions that we can't answer currently, but that we have thought about them. Public Works Engineering has a group that uses contractors. It's Stantec. It used to be Cardno. They take care of all the invasives in our waterways for flow, for our various permits with SwiftMud and other agencies that require us to keep invasives from competing with our native vegetation. So we have an active contract that's managed through our Public Works Engineering Department. They do surveys. They also do reporting to SwiftMud and other agencies, because some of our permits require biannual or annual reporting on what type of vegetation is going on. So that is actually being done in our waterways. And those are not just waterways and parks, but those are waterways throughout the city. All of our stormwater ditches that are the responsibility of the city. That's basically the overview of what we're currently doing. And I would love to revisit this once we have a little more information from Mr. Armstrong.
I had a couple of questions myself.
Yes, sir.
I think a resident contacted me about some concerns and issues at Forest Run, and then another couple contacted me about Lake Chautauqua as well, relative to invasive plants. And I'll let you know what we found when we went out there. But
Sure.
In talking to Brian DeWitt at Forest Run, I think we used outside people to keep the walkways cleared back and stuff. Is that correct? I mean, we have outside contractors that do that work, not necessarily Parks and Rec. Is that true?
No, that type of mechanical removal application we do in-house. And I'm going to get to the actual processes that we use, whether it be contractors in-house, and also some of the things we have coming up on CIP that will help make it easier for us to do that. But that we do not use, the only contractors we typically use would be on a project basis. So for instance, out on Edgewater Park, we had a lot of invasives that were battling the mangroves. We hired a company to come in, mechanically remove them, treat the stumps. And that's a prime example of where we would use contractors as Parks and Rec. Like I said, Public Works and Engineering, they use them for waterways and other projects as well, which we don't really have a whole lot of dealings in, but in-house we have used contractors on a case-by-case basis.
When I went with the residents to Forest Run Park as well as Lake Chautauqua, the walkways were kept clear. But what they were concerned about is beyond the walkway, those plants, and I mean, it is incredible what's out there, but we have to also remember the financial concerns as well as the time and equipment to get those clearings done. But my experience at both parks was the walkways were kept clear, people could get by without a problem. It was just beyond that. A very interesting thing was pointed out to me at Forest Run Park I worked by Brian. Working with the University of Florida, they introduced bugs that would eat potato plants that are invasive in Forest Run Park. And he took me and showed me where where those bugs had been introduced, and the plants were gone, or the ones that were there were they'd been eaten away. And he said this is something that they came up with at the University of Florida, and they introduced it, and it's working well. So they're doing, I think, the best they can with the budgets they have and the equipment they have presently. But the walkways are being cut clear, that's for sure. And as Brian said also, he said, our objective in many cases is not for a pristine park. We also like them to be kept in their natural state, if you will, which means everything may not be absolutely perfectly neat, this, that, and the other thing. But my experience has been that they're doing a good job of maintaining at least those parks where I went to.
Yeah, and our number one when we go in to look at maintenance on a park is we want it, number one, to be safe for the people that are using it. We want it to be as clean as possible. Obviously, we don't want trash and things like that. And that's really where we start our maintenance program. And obviously, aesthetics are important, but safety and cleanliness is really our key. And then we build aesthetics in where we can, where we're resourced. But you take a park like the Chautauqua with the horse trail, that's close to, I believe, 35 acres. You know, to go in and remove all the invasives out of there. The other thing you have to consider too, which I'll mention in the next agenda item, is chemical use. Because typically when you have any type of mechanical operation for invasives, it's followed by chemical application. And I've spoken about chemicals, I believe, to this board many years ago. I've most recently been to the EAB, and I've talked to citizens on a regular basis. It's finding that balance between chemical use and no chemical use, because you got a lot of people that want to see the invasives gone, then you've got other folks that don't want to see any chemicals being used, period. And it's finding the balance where you keep everybody happy, and that's not always easy to do. So.
You want to move on to the next
Sure,
item?
absolutely.
That might get into the processes that we're all being educated about as well.
So 4.4, with regards to developing a plan for control, like I said, currently Public Works Engineering takes care of our waterways. We oversee the invasives in our parks, case by case, and I already gave you the two examples that are most recent. Pineapple Lane, if you haven't had a chance to hear about that, it's a piece of property we purchased and closed on 2 weeks ago, Art? Immediately we went in, secured the property, removed as many invasives, and that's going to be a park property that gets continued to be worked in with the rest of Moccasin Lake. Eventually it will be added in, but in the meantime we're going to remove invasives and focus on making that the best piece of property when we do adjoin it with Moccasin Lake. Once again, we use contractors in-house. We use the mechanical and chemical follow-up application, and that's practical in some places. We currently do not spray in dog parks and playgrounds. So there are going to be weeds that are in those types of areas that we just don't do, because that is something that has been very vocally pointed out to us by our residents. They don't want chemicals, playgrounds, dog parks. We don't do it. So we also look for more volunteer opportunities, because we have a volunteer coordinator, and we have actually talked about it in several meetings recently to put those opportunities out. Will we have the level of interest? We don't know, but we're going to try it and see, because with additional help for the mechanical, that would be great. It would help our crews out a lot, particularly in places like a Forest Run or Chautauqua that's a lot larger. It would allow us to get past just that safety and cleanliness and move on to some more aesthetics. We are actively involved in the integrated vegetation management program Pinellas County has going on. We've actually recently looped our sustainability coordinator, Cassie Cordova. I don't know if y'all have had opportunity to work with her, but she's now at the table with our IVM. It's typically just been maintenance groups, but we included her because she's got a lot of new ideas and things. So she's now at the table for the countywide vegetation management working group. And once again, we just try to find that balance between using chemicals and not using chemicals. You know, keeping our residents happy and safe, and then still meeting the needs of the ones that want to see the invasives gone. So that's what we currently are doing, and we obviously are always open to suggestions, and we'll be willing to work to improve on our process and program. So if there's any questions, I can answer them at this time. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
The next item under new business is 4.5, which is discuss the use of portable restrooms for Enterprise Dog Park. I'm not sure who posed that item yourself, I'm assuming.
I am.
Very good.
I've had 3 people mention it to me, not recently, but last 2 years maybe. I guess ever since the renovation. I don't know how long.
Yeah, yes,
But
probably.
I know a few people that I talked to were disappointed there were no permanent restrooms, so, and going around the parks taking my pictures, I noticed that, Cliff Stevens Park, this is another one, Soul Park. Am I pronouncing that correct?
Sewell Road, I don't think that one has it.
We don't.
Northeast Coachman does.
Presley calls it.
Which one?
The park is, the bathroom is by the playground and there's no bathrooms by the dog park.
It's kind of like behind Sylvan Abbey, back there, near the East Coast.
I think it's.
They had porta potties still at those two parks, so I thought, well, since I heard complaints about the restrooms, I wondered if it's possible to put porta potties at Enterprise.
One of the things, and again, the master plan is on here, and I was gonna bring an update, but one of the things that we heard very clearly from the public, that they would like their restrooms open, they would like more restrooms, in the parks. So that's one of the things that will be in the master plan as a recommendation for the city moving forward. As you might know, for the last couple of years, we actually put in additional staffing and recommended to open up all of the closed down restrooms that we had there. I think temporarily, just so the board knows, we can certainly look at that. The dog park is obviously very well, attended. It's always packed. There's a lot of people out there. I think what happened is our contractor, when he was there, we opened the park and he left his porta potty out there. So the porta potty was there for a month or two, that's okay, we weren't paying for it.
Yeah.
But I think people got used to it, liked it out there, and then all of a sudden we took it away. Just so you know, we can certainly look at that. The cost for something like that it runs anywhere from $7,800 a year to about $15,600 a year. It depends on how many times you want it cleaned. So the basic one is $7,800 a year. You get it cleaned twice a week. Normally, when we put things out, we clean them a little bit more than that. So, anyways, Nicole's not going to go. She said, but excuse me. When you got to go, you got to go, right? But anyways, that's why we need restrooms at these parks. Why we'd like to open them up, especially when you have children and kids out there, those types of things. Kelly, let us look at this. Let us look at the few parks that we have that we might be able to at least temporarily put something out there. I won't say permanently, but certainly at the areas that are well attended and parks that might need them. Let us look at that. Look at our budget and see if we can afford it.
Can I
Okay?
add Crestlake Park to that? Because when I take my son to the dog park, I have to run all the way across the park. And it's so
You're
big.
talking about which dog park?
Crestlake Park. The
Crestlake.
dog park is if the bathroom, the only functioning bathroom is the one by the playground or by the splash pads.
Yes.
And
Well,
trying to run a 4-year-old all the way
Yeah.
across the park is impossible.
It is, and we hear that a lot. I mean, we really do. It's the same way with actually downtown Coachman Park, where you mentioned about the restrooms there. Unfortunately, when they designed that, they only put those 3 restrooms at that, where the main playground is, and the splash pad, and where everybody congregates. And of course, when kids have to go, you want to be able to, and you see those lines there, and that just it's just unfortunate, but right now, that's what we have. That's why we opened up the restrooms on the other side. But like you said,
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
you
Just
got
like
you
said.
got to move to get there. So I appreciate you bringing it up, but I'm very well aware of this problem. Have been for many years here, and I will continue to push to. The problem is if you own them, you've got to clean them, and of course it brings in other elements that you have to deal with, vandalism and other situations. But the key to that is just having a lot of people in the park. And if you have a lot of people there, generally you don't have that kind of vandalism. So let us look at that. We'll see if we can do some parks, and I'll keep y'all informed about that. Okay?
I was curious on Enterprise Dog Park, is there nothing there now for humans at Enterprise? So there's nothing for humans there. That is.
No.
It is for dogs. and
Split it for
dogs
dogs.
only. You gotta go before you go.
No, yeah, no, we're not,
That's
that's not
why-
dogs, right? Okay, that's, right.
By the way, that's his responsibility too. But the dog park, as you know, it's got irrigation. Somebody says, well, why do you have all that irrigation when you just have shell and all? Well, obviously, if you don't irrigate it in a drought time and everything else,
Yeah.
you have, the urine smell is just
Yeah.
unbelievable. So that's why we do that. We wash it off, and it's great, perks in the ground and everything else. But thank you for bringing that up. And, you know, if anybody knows the parks, Kelly does. And so she's going to catch those little idiosyncrasies that we have out there. So thank you, Kelly.
Very good. Moving on to old business items, item 5.1. Art, I'm wondering if we want to discuss 5.1 with 5.5, since they both are talking about the Coachman Park initiatives and programming ideas, but I'll leave that to you. 5.1 is programming ideas for Coachman Park.
Yeah, we actually took an item to the city council because I know they were concerned about in the agreement we have with Ruth Eckerd Hall, there are 10 days that the city can use Ruth Eckerd Hall or use the sound and not have to pay any profit or that kind of overhead. We still have to pay their operational costs, which are for their labor and all of the costs that they have. But there were 10 days, and we had to give them 365 days notice of when we're going to have an event. That's a whole year. So in other words, that's why we took the item. But we're in the middle of negotiations with them as far as an amendment, and we're going to try to bring that down to just a half a year. That makes it just more palatable for everybody. So think about this. If you're trying to set a date for, for this right here, yeah. And that's one of the items that was on there, the Hispanic Heritage Day. And then we put on there to make sure that we could reserve it for that. The same way with Martin Luther King Day. Now, that's an easy one to do, you know, because it's a holiday like that. But some of the others where you don't know and you put them in there. The other thing we're working with Ruth Eckerd Hall is on the cost. As you heard today, that cost was very high, and it is. Depends on what you do there. For example, the Martin Luther King Day, they were out there, had their staff, they did everything, and they actually came back and they said that we would not be charged for that. So they're trying to work with us as we work with them. There's a give and take. As far as the neighborhood events, hopefully we, being the city, can come in and do some of that security or the cleanup or pick up the trash, so they don't have to pay their people. And so the only ones you would have to pay would be the very technical people, and which means it would make that cost go way down. So we're kind of in negotiations with it still, and they're not finalized, so I can't share a whole lot with you there on that. But, you know, did want you to know that. As far as the programming, we had suggested several things. We had suggested come back to school day, or it's a kind of a summer Olympics, end of the summer for the kids, bringing in all the camps from whatever, private, you know, all the city camps, and having just a big summer Olympics there, and enjoying it actually during that time, you know, the sound as well as all the field area and those kind of things. Another was to have a neighborhoods day. I don't know what that looks like, but it would be inviting all the neighborhoods in to come and have a special day. And it'd be more low-key type things, rather than the minute you bring in many orchestras or entertainment and things like that, you then bring in a lot more support staff that you have to have for it. And then the larger events we put in for 2 Tampa Bay Orchestra events, as well as for Sea Blues events. But now I think what we're looking at toward are what we call community events. Those smaller community events, so the community can get in there at a small, reduced price. Basically, the city would kind of produce those, and I think it'd just be good for everybody. So right now, that's where we are. We didn't want to step on the toes of Friends of Coachman because they're starting tomorrow. They have their first meeting, and we wanted to keep some vacant days for them to make some suggestions of how to fill up the stadium, not the stadium, the venue. It's as big as a stadium. That's kind of where we are on that, yeah.
Are we allowed to be a part of the Friends of Coachman Park, or is that a conflict of interest, or can we sit in, listen?
I haven't a clue. I'm gonna look to our clerk's office.
What,
Yeah, Friends of
tomorrow, the
Coachman
Friends
Park.
of Coachman Park, are we allowed to be a part of that, or can we just be observers?
You can certainly be observers. I would caution against having more than one of you on that committee, because then you're getting into some shady territory.
So we can, if more than one of us is interested, we can just sit in the audience and listen?
Yes,
Okay.
Separate and correct.
Yeah, you can't talk about
yeah.
Parks and Rec Board
Okay, I'm just making sure that.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there I'm wondering about Coachman Park, is there a projection screen or anything as part of the, is there any kind of, there is, okay, sorry.
Yes, there is.
I haven't seen it in action.
Yeah, you mean inside the theater
Yes,
itself?
yeah.
Yeah, there are projection screens, and then they come and they bring some in as well.
I'm wondering if it's a kind of programming idea, maybe like watching a sports event, like, I don't know, Bucks or Lightning or, you know, baseball, whatever it is, just having like a viewing of a,
Yeah.
I don't know how you can, just an idea.
No, it's a great idea. I think it is. We mentioned something like that, the Tampa Orchestra, what they do is they actually have, they play the music to various shows, you know, like, what are some of the Disney stuff that, you know, and they play the film up there, and they're actually the live orchestra playing the music for the film, and which is kind of, it's pretty.
In the art, they would do the orchestra to silent films,
Yeah,
so everyone could see what it was back before, the sound and color, the orchestra would play, and you would see kids would read, it was pretty
Yeah.
nice.
those kinds of things, but that's a great idea, and certainly we've done it with just portable screens. I know we have done it out on the beach, we do it up in the North Greenwood community, we have, films like that, but it would be something, we even thought about the Bucks thing, you know, if something happened there. Be kind of neat,
I
yeah,
always predict that, huh?
yeah, great idea,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Moving on, any further questions or comments? Moving on, item 5.2, discuss the Parks and Recreation 15-year master plan. Before we get into that, I just wanted to ask the board members that the Tool Design people published a 1-hour presentation and discussion of what they had developed over numbers of months and had been presented to the Parks and Recreation Department as well as the City Council. Did anybody see that? It was broadcast on the 13th of December. I only found out about it because Councilmember Beckman, in her informational letter, I saw it in there, my wife mentioned it to me. So I got a chance to listen to it, and it was participation, but mostly listening to what ideas they had, what things they had, and it was very comprehensive and educational. It's on YouTube. I still may have it somewhere, but it was very well done, I thought. So just as a lead-in to a discussion of the things they touched upon, it was really well done.
No, it's a great lead-in, and certainly I would encourage you to look at it, because some of the things I'm going to say tonight are just those things that they indicated. Andrea was her name, Andresco, shared that with us. What I did want to share with you, we're right now, the draft is completed, working out some last minute things. We're hopeful that we can get to the council in our March meeting, our first March meeting. So certainly we'll give you copies of that. I didn't want to kind of let that out. I don't actually, the draft copy, is still kind of working through it. But we will certainly give you copies of that and want you to have that along with the council when they get that, so that you are apprised of it as best you can. I may even, don't tell anybody, but I may sneak something to you before they get them, because I know Parks and Rec, you guys are so supportive of us. We appreciate it, and you actually put a lot in here and got a lot of the community out for these events, and you came to them and you expressed your opinions on them, and I appreciate that. I'm not going to take a lot of time on this, but I do want to give you what the 14 main areas that came forth from the plan that they are going to be recommending in the plan. One of them is that they found that there was a strong desire to have access to sport courts and fields, more access to the fields. And, you know, mainly the fields that are locked up now, those types of things, and or better publicity on the fields we do have available so people can go out, play sports, you know, run, you know, whatever the case may be. So that was one of the areas. These are not in priority, by the way. A second one was to have park attendants, more people actually in the park to go by, make sure the restrooms are, that goes with the restrooms too. That was a big one. Open the restrooms, have more restrooms, have park attendants there to take care of the restroom, but take care of the park, make sure that there's nothing going on that should not be. There also was a concern on landscaping and beautification. They wanted our parks to look pretty. They wanted our green spaces to look nice. While we maintain them the best we can, there are so many of them. There, you know, we'll admit that there are certain things that could be improved as far as the landscaping. I hope you've seen some of the medians where we've done, like on Gulf to Bay. I know in Countryside we've done some things. We're working on US 19 on some of that. So we are improving. It's a lot to do. I think we're in the Morningside neighborhood as well. Those are all those traffic calming little areas, cleaning those out. And so that was one of the items that people picked up on. The other was a possibility of electrification of parks. What they mean by that is the electrification of vehicles, trucks, those types of things. It's a trend now, kind of nationwide. Everybody seems to be moving there. Although I did see some reports from the up north where they had the snowstorms and all, and for people that had electrical vehicles couldn't get them charged, or it took 6 to 8 hours to charge them or whatever. So that may be something they got to work through. But be that as it may, that was number 4. Number 5 was beach maintenance, and I think they were referring mainly to these times when we have just tremendous people out there, and we have so much trash and debris, but we put an awful lot of effort to keeping that beach clean. But that was one of the areas. Increased comfort amenities. Comfort amenities are things like restrooms, benches, having more just things that make people enjoy the parks and be able to come out. There was a group that wanted more access to basketball courts very strongly. I know that in our Hispanic areas and the communities, they wanted to have more time with, and because it's expensive to rent the gymnasiums. And so, but if they could have some more basketball courts with exterior, with some coverage to help from inclement weather, that was one of the things. Beach accessibility, this is for people that are perhaps handicapped or in wheelchairs, to provide that. We are working on that. We have an application in now to be able to provide that. Restrooms, I already mentioned. Kayak launches were a big thing with several people. Enhancing the tree canopy in the citywide, that's important for them. While it's not within our department or auspices, we certainly have a lot of parks that we can put trees in, and that's what we intend to do and hope to do. The other things, 3 last things, intergenerational programming, that was big. As far as what we're talking about there is something like we talked about at the Hope, at the Stevenson Creek property there, where they're lawn bowling and horseshoes or shuffleboard, and basically improving that facility and allowing that to grow. And intergenerational means you bring in the younger couples and people to introduce them to those types of things, and hopefully they would make it a lifetime type sport. But we'll also introduce other things like perhaps volleyball, pickleball, and I'm not sure, other types of things. Archery, as long as we can get
kids.
Yeah, you can do archery, or you can throw axes too, maybe axe throwing or something like that. But it will have a literally, our vision is a potpourri of things you can go there. So it's an exciting thing, a place you can go. You have one center that you can do all those things. You'd have a place to meet and mingle and mix and, just have a really good time and enjoy yourself and try out some different sports. So That's one of our ideas. The other, last one is pickleball courts. There was a big hue and cry for those. So that's kind of just a summary of the main new items. Now, there are still a lot of items left on the old master plan that they carried over because they heard also they weren't completed yet, but also there's still a need for those kinds of things. For example, there's always needs for outdoor multi-purpose fields. Our problem there is finding some land to put them. A track would be nice too, around it, you know, if we could ever do something like that. But those are things that are still there, we will use the master plan as we go forward for the next 10, 15 years. That's my update.
Did you mention when you think this might be presented to council in some?
March. I'm hopeful that it'll be a March date. We were aiming for February, and I don't know that we're going to get it. And again, we have to give 3 weeks notice prior to get those on agenda items.
From the video that I watched, one interesting piece of information I'll share with the board, and that the lady was talking about the history of the parks in Clearwater and the significant numbers that we have, et cetera. She indicated the oldest park in the city is a park called Plaza Park. It was created in 1909, before Clearwater even became a city. And I know a lady that formed an HOA down in the Plaza Park area, and I mentioned this to her the other night at a candidates forum, but the oldest park in the city is from 1909.
Sure.
I think you were there for the opening?
I was there through a lot, but not that old. That's good. But Plaza Park, and you're right, they have a new homeowner. So, well, it's not new. It's been going on now for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
They're doing some wonderful things in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
They're having events in their park. They're doing some really neat things, and so we had to make it so that they could do more.
Plaza Park.
It's Plaza Park. It's right off of Drew Street.
Yeah.
You just boom, take a left if you're going to go east. And it's right there. You've seen it. That sign needs to be replaced too. So we
I
got to
love
put
the
it.
neighborhood stays on, it's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, it is big.
Very good. Any questions on this item from anyone? The next item is item 5.3, update on the activity of the Macmillan Booth Tennis Complex supporting wheelchair-bound tennis players. This is an item that I added just to simply see what has been accomplished perhaps since our last meeting back in October.
Yes, we've done quite a bit. We've spoken with Bill Hannigan. He's with the USTA Community Tennis Director, and we have information from him regarding some grants that we can apply for, basically to help with wheelchairs and wheelchair training staff out there, and get some training to be able to put on lessons and help give us some financial support to do that. And to make any improvements to the facility. These are grants, we'd have to apply for them, but we do have that information now. We also have one of our variable instructors, Donna Small. She is going through certification right now to be able to teach wheelchair tennis for us. So that is a good positive. The staff is working on additional handicap parking spaces. If they're not already out there, the signs, we can certainly they're going to be out there soon. Our only issue is we got to make sure that the able-bodied people will stay out of the spaces, during that time. And we're also working to create a Friends of McMullen group, similar to what we're doing at Coachman. We used to have a Friends of McMullen group many years ago, and they were very active, and they've made many good suggestions on things they would like to see improved there. They also kind of built up a membership there and bringing new people in, so we're going to start that. So those are the updates. They're very positive.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions from the board on this at all? The next item, 5.4, is an update on the status of the Clearwater Audubon Society Moccasin Lake Nature Park annual contract. That's an item that I added. It was brought to my attention by the Moccasin Lake Nature Park that the Clearwater Audubon Society is the group that works with them to maintain the birds of prey exhibits at Moxon Lake Park, and I know that the contract is up for renewal in January. I just want to catch up to date with the status of that.
The Birds of Prey, Audubon has been supporting them for many years. I can't tell you how many. But they have the Audubon Society has decided that they are not going to continue their agreement with the Birds of Prey at Moccasin Lake. However, good news, we are working with the Tampa Bay Raptor Rescue Group. And they basically are some of the same people right now that are out there at Moccasin Lake, very familiar with everything. So nothing will really change other than it's a new agreement, not with the Audubon Society, but with Tampa Bay Raptors. So that's the good news. And Audubon Society is still great. They still meet out there. They just have some other priorities that they would like to focus on and put their resources toward. And so we're working right now to get an agreement finished. I'm hopeful that again will be done by March as well. If we can get legal done, well, it'll be March. Let's just say March. I get in trouble when I say this.
Very good. Appreciate that update, and I'm glad to see the Tampa Bay Raptor Group is going to step up and fill in that role that Clearwater Audubon Society used to do for the Moxon Lake Birds of Prey exhibit. So that sounds very good.
Yes.
Any questions from the board at all? The next item, 5.5, is update on the formation of the Friends of Coaston Park initiative.
And I kind of included that just to let you know tomorrow's the first meeting, so we encourage anybody to come. I think it's here in these chambers, and I want to say 6:30.
5:45 to 6:45.
I missed it by 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I understand.
5:45 to 6:45 in these chambers, though. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I hope there's a good turnout for that with people interested in helping plan events for Coaston Park. There's no further questions on the old business items. We can move to the director's part. I beg your pardon, the director's report, item number 6.
Well, it's very short. We're going to have an exciting, we always have excitement in Parks and Recreation. As you know, we're in January. We've already had our winter, so we're looking at spring. And so spring's coming. That means baseball, that means Little League, that means on the beach, and so many other things that we're planning. So we are looking forward to that. Our staff is gearing up for all of that. It's also budget time. It's when we look at our budgets. It's when we are basically go forward. What I'd like to do is suggest that if there's anything that you have seen that perhaps you might think that we are lacking in any way from a budgetary standpoint, or especially from a CIP standpoint. That's a capital project. If you have any capital projects that you're, would like to see us to see if we can get some funding for, then certainly we'd like to hear that from you at the next meeting. So we don't need it tonight. That's for the next meeting to come. We are almost fully staffed in Parks and Recreation Administration, which is good news. Basically, with the hiring of Matt has put on 2 other additional quality people he's brought into our department, and so we're 1 short. That's all. We'll be fully staffed. You'll be seeing a lot of really neat things. You'll be seeing the project list. If you see it's gone kind of small from what it used to be, it's going to grow real quickly here. We've got an awful lot that it's on the plate that we've got to get done, and I think you're going to be excited about that. I hope to, we mentioned the Woodring property. We basically, the council settled on purchases of 3.4 acres. I call it the Woodring property because that's the family that owned the property. You call it Pineapple Lane?
Yes, sir.
It's the end of Pineapple Lane. It's, if you go into Moccasin Lake Park and you drive down and you just park your car and you keep walking north, you'll walk right into the property that we purchased. And we went in there, we've already, we have some plans to do some nice work in there. It's a large meadow area, it's a beautiful area, and in addition to the park. I think that's pretty much it. That's my report.
Sounds very good. Next item on the agenda is for individual board members to be heard, and I'll start with Kelly. Kelly?
I just wondered along those lines, about 6 months ago, we discussed, looking for properties for the parks to buy. Anything else besides that pineapple?
Oh, I thought, well, we've got a lot of them. Let's see what has happened to them. This is the only one that we've got any contract on right now, that we're doing any negotiations for, but that we've got.
Do you have like money sitting aside, a certain amount to buy properties?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we do. We have what we call impact fee money that was paid by developers when they come into the city. There's an impact fee, and it's a different amount for each development depending upon, the impact they have to the city. Currently, we do have, I believe, somewhere around 4 million, 3.5 to $4 million that we have available to purchase new parkland, additional parkland. So, the problem with that, not a problem, it's a good thing to have, but there are stipulations on where the money can be spent. That's the issue. The issue is it must be spent within 1 mile for a neighborhood park, 2 miles for a community park, or it can be spent anywhere if you're purchasing a park for resource-based park, which would be a resource-based park would be, for example, at State Street Park. We added a portion, we purchased some of that property here about a year ago, and that was, again, a resource-based park. They want to leave it wooded, and so that's type of thing. And you can use the money also for a citywide facility. In other words, a citywide facility would be something like this intergenerational type facility, or it could be something like Moccasin Lake. Moccasin Lake would be one, because we only have one nature park. McMullen Tennis Complex, something like that. Okay.
Jason?
I don't have anything to say.
Mark?
Nothing at this time.
As far as the fields that you mentioned that you guys were looking at that were from previous items, because I know that there are fields that are large enough that are currently owned by you guys that could possibly be used as tracks.
Yeah.
And I know that money is a concern of if it makes sense to bring the track to the city.
Yeah.
But is it like an opportunity where, just like with anything, like planning in advance of like events, tracking the track area to make it, profitable, so it does make sense for the city to have it on top of being able to, for the citizens of the city to be able to use it. You know what I mean? So, is that like something that has been, evaluated on if a track were to be put in the city?
I don't know that it has. We've had a discussion before. Traditionally it's been the high schools that provided all that for us when we did programs or did any programs with track and field events and those types of things. But now the schools basically are pretty much closed down. So, from a recreational standpoint, if we could get a strong recreational program, because basically what we're concerned with, and I just had a meeting recently with one of the co-sponsor groups, there's all these club sports or sports where people want to go, be the next professional, baseball player or softball player or get a college scholarship and all of those. And those are a very elite group of people. What we're always been concerned with are really just recreational leagues, just to get kids, introduce them into a sport, and let them decide what they want to do. Those have been our focus. And the same way it would be with track too. It'd just be to get kids out there, to play, to learn, to grow, those kind of things, which would be programs that we would put on by volunteers. But yeah, right now, there's nothing there. The only thing I can do is we could try to partner with somebody else. We could do something like that. get 1,000 signatures of people that want to do it.
Well, I mean, that's would be easy to do, I would say. If that is something that is needed, because, I mean, I understand financially
Yes.
of it all, but being able to have, you know, just like with anything, you know, with schools, being able to have host events to be able to bring in money,
Yeah.
but not just local area, you know, organizations, but, you know, being able to track organizations from different states that want to come and utilize the track. I mean,
Yeah.
they go so many, you know, track events, not just track events, but other events that can be held on the premises, you know,
Yeah.
just like anything, just to be able to occupy, you know, when there's not being utilized, that people can come and take part in
Right.
and bring money to the city to make sense of having it there, basically. So.
I was just curious, in the 15-year plan, I don't recall them mention, they mentioned basketball courts a lot, but I don't recall them mentioning track at all.
No,
Did it come up?
there's no,
It didn't, even- I don't think it came up with much
no.
input from the residents, I guess, or whatever, but, because I made a list of all the 14 items that they said, these
Yeah.
are some things we want to focus. And as she was talking, I said, let me go back and look at the list. And unfortunately, I guess, basketball court, definitely, but track did not come up for any input, I guess.
With the real estate, I mean, the dimension of the basketball court's kind of static, and a track you'd have to do what size. I mean, if you go full Olympic size or what size, then that would cut through the park.
Yeah.
Plus, I think basketball is very, I mean, that came out a lot about basketball, particularly indoor courts in the neighborhoods for the kids to play there and so forth, so that's really popular. Okay. Angie?
I had a question, but it escapes me, so nothing. It just escaped, I had it and it's gone, it just poofed, so it's gone. It's okay. There's nothing tonight.
Whatever happened to the property where you were sharing?
I have, the board has voted, I believe, not to sell it at this time, and I will follow up again at the next board meeting. and
That was
let
one
you
of the
know.
pieces that,
There's, there is roughly 2 acres, or no, sorry, it's like 5 acres, I want to say, but it's a good amount of space behind behind the Seville RO. Historically, I think it was the Albright family that used to own it, and they used to own it when it was a peacock farm. And it now is basically unused. There's a shuffleboard court on it and a pool house, but there is some financial straits. And they're considering selling some of it, a portion of it, to offset fees, rising fees. So I have to follow up with the Resident Owners Association, because it's a bunch of buildings it's very complicated. But I have to follow up with the board and see where they're at with it. And I will get back to you on that.
okay. Very good.
I was going to finish up with an item that I think used to be under Parks and Recreation, but this is sidewalk repairs up in our neighborhood where I live. In August of 2022, a neighbor mentioned to me that along the side of our house, it was a trip hazard at the sidewalk. So I reported it, and the team came out and painted their pink lines and so forth, and it got included with the sidewalks to be repaired. And they focused on those sidewalks that had to be torn up and a tree removed because the roots were destroying the sidewalk. That they did first, and they would tear trees out, redo the sidewalks and all that other stuff. But I noticed within the last 3 weeks, in our particular neighborhood, they were going through with a machine that would level the sidewalk. And this is areas where there was a trip hazard, maybe of an inch, maybe an inch and a half. And they would take a machine that made a heck of a lot of racket, but it would actually level that area of the sidewalk down to where it was nice. And in the neighborhood where I live, they probably did, in about a 2 or 3 block area, they probably did 30 of those. Because they were out there for a full week just grinding it down. So I didn't say nothing about it when it came up for its anniversary in August of 2023 that had not been done. And they got to it and they got to a bunch of them. So I know that's no longer Parks and Recreation's responsibility, but it does say that progress is being made on repairing sidewalks. And in our particular neighborhood, they got it done just a couple of weeks ago. So, and that's the last thing I want to say tonight.
Very good.
All righty? With that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.